Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully you're having a great day. In today's simulator guide, we're going to be creating the tools which we can use to earn points. Now, of course, if this video does help you guys out or you guys do enjoy it, make sure you hit the like button. Also, hit the subscribe button and turn post notifications on if you guys want to get alerted when I make more Roblox development videos. Additionally, I do have a Patreon. If you guys would like to support me and gain access to all the scripts and the actual game file that I make during this video, go down below in the description and check out the Patreon, and you guys can subscribe to support me and gain access to all the stuff that we work on today. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Today, we're going to be creating tools and actually using those tools to give ourselves points. Remember, we're recreating some of the stuff from that eating simulator, so their first tool that they actually have in that game is actually a french fry. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any decent french fry models, so I decided, why don't I make my own and show you guys how we do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into the workspace, we're going to go to tool, and we are going to insert a brand new tool. Now let's go ahead and rename this to french fry. Additionally, you might be wondering, how did I even get this here? Well, I already recorded this episode and it actually got corrupted, so that's why this is here. Anyway, the way that we actually get this is I have a plugin, and that is called the Already Pros plugin. I'll leave a link down below in the description. Just go ahead, get that, click on load character, and this basically allows us to actually insert our own character model or anybody's character model into the game that we want. So I'm going to type in my name, then we're going to click spawn R6, and there we go. It spawns right in front of us. Perfect. Now the reason that we're using this is so that we can sort of make our tool around the same size of a player, and we can work with the models and see if we need to size it up or size it down and everything like that. Now, inside of your french fry tool, what you're going to want to do is add a brand new part. So there we go. Let's go ahead and move this a little bit closer to the player right here so that we can kind of make sure that all the sizing is correct. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly create a little french fry holder type of a thing. So I'll see you guys in like a quick sec. Okay, so this is the progress that I'm making on my french fries. They look horrible. I will not lie or deny it, but basically I'm just trying to quickly do it. Realistically, if you're going to like kind of make models or have nice models for your simulator, I definitely recommend paying somebody or figure out how to model yourself, because yeah, I'm not good at modeling at all, clearly. Anyway, that is our fry holder right there. It's not too bad. Let's just go ahead and name the original part holder. So basically I have the holder, and then we have a couple of french fries inside of the holder. Looks decent enough, not horrible. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to hold it up to the player's hand so we can sort of see, like, is the sizing good? And honestly, yeah, I mean, I'd say the sizing's honestly perfectly fine. So now what we want to do is we want to add a brand new part into the tool, and this part we're actually going to call handle. Now you actually need to call a part inside of a tool handle, because that'll actually indicate where the player will hold the tool at. So then what we're going to do is we're going to make pretty small little handle like that. That's good enough. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to drag this inside of our model right here, or our little creation. So let's say like right there, I want the player to hold it sort of like in the middle right there. I think that looks decent. Like maybe you actually might want him to hold it from like that side. Like maybe you want to hold it from like right there. So make sure it's named handle, and then also we're going to delete all of the welds if any of these have welds. Then what we're going to do is inside of fry, we're actually going to add in a brand new weld, and that's called weld constraint. Now what this is going to do is when we use models, what we normally do, or at least parts inside of the game, we usually anchor these down. Now if you anchor these down and a player tries to hold it, it will not actually work. I believe the model will stay exactly where it's anchored, and basically what anchor will do is it'll lock every single thing into the position that it's currently at, and we don't want to do that because we want the player to be able to hold the tool and move around the tool and not get stuck. So what we're going to do is we're going to use weld constraint to hold all of these parts together since they're not anchored. So we add a weld constraint inside of fry, then we go into the weld constraint, we go down to part 0, and we set part 0 to fry, then we set part 1 to the holder. So we're anchoring fry to the holder, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to duplicate that, and then once again we are going to change part 0 to this fry. So there we go. We will duplicate that once again, do it to the next fry once again, change part 0 to the fry, and I accidentally deselected the holder. So there we go. Now all of these will be welded together, and you can click on each of those to see exactly that those are all exactly what we want. And then what we want to do is we want to do the same thing. We want to add a weld constraint to the handle. This time part 0 is the handle and part 1 is the holder. So we're now welding the handle to the holder. And then what we should be able to do is we should be able to actually put this french fry inside of starter pack, and then we should be able to start the game. Now starter pack is basically the player's backpack. As soon as they join the game, this, whatever you put put in starter pack will be put inside of the player's inventory. And as we can see, French fries put inside of there. We equip it and boom, there we go. We are holding some nice cooked French fries. Beautiful. Now, the next thing we're going to do is inside of French fry, we are going to want to throw on a local script. And we can just call this click. It doesn't exactly matter. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable for the tool. So we're going to say local tool equals script.parent. And of course, the reason for that is because the parent of the script is this tool right here. It is the French fry tool. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say tool, and then we're going to listen to an event. And what the event that we're going to listen to is activated. As we can see the description, fired when the player clicks while the tool is equipped. Then after activated, we're going to say connect, and then we're going to connect a brand new function to this. And all we're going to do is we are going to print out test. So we get the tool, then we wait for it to be activated, and then we connect the function to it. Let's go ahead and start our game, equip the tool, click, and we can see test has been printed. So we can keep clicking. Test is printed constantly every single time that we click, which is awesome. That's exactly what we wanted. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and close the game. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go inside of replicated storage. Let's go ahead and make a folder, and we're going to call this remotes. And then inside of remotes, we're actually going to insert a remote event. If you guys are completely unaware about what remote events are, basically they're a way of communication between the client and the server to the client as well. There are actually also remote functions which basically do the same thing, but they're slightly different. With a remote event, the client can communicate to the server, but the server will not communicate it back. If you use a remote function, the client can then communicate to the server, and the server can communicate back and return a value, for example. Don't worry, that might be a little bit confusing if you don't understand it. As we work with them a little bit more and more, you probably will understand it a lot more. Let's go ahead and rename this remote event to tool activated. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we are going to actually set a variable to the replicated storage. And dude, are you kidding me? Driver boosters, why are you coming up and ruining this video? Anyway, we're going to say replicated storage equals game get service replicated storage. Perfect. Then let's go ahead and create a variable for the remotes folder. So we're going to say local remotes equals replicated storage, find first child, and remotes. So now we're going to go ahead and get the remotes folder. Then we'll come back to this in a second. Let's go to server script service, and let's actually add a brand new script. And let's go ahead and rename this to tool manager. Now inside of here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a variable for the replicated storage, and we're going to set that to game get service replicated storage. Perfect. And then we are going to once again create a variable for the remotes folder, local remotes equals replicated storage, find first child, remotes. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say remotes, then we're going to go ahead and get the tool activated remote, and then we're going to say on server event. And we can read the description. Fires listening functions in script when remote event fire server is called from a local script. So basically, when we say on server event, what we're going to do is we are going to get the tool activated remote event. Then with on server event, we are going to listen for whenever this event is actually fired, and then we're actually going to connect it to a function. And one parameter that is always passed through remote events is the player who fires it. So let's go ahead and put player as one of the parameters, and we could actually put a print statement inside of here, and we could say player.name. So anytime this is activated, it will print the player's name. Let's go back to the local script called click. Then let's go inside of tool.activated, because remember, this is for whenever the player clicks or activates with the tool. And inside of the function, we are going to say remotes dot. We're going to get the tool activated remote, and then we're going to say fire server. And then what this is going to do is it's going to fire the event from the client. So let's go ahead and remove this test. Let's go ahead and remove that print statement right there. And let's go ahead and actually start the game. So now let's go ahead and whip out our French fry and click. And we can actually see that the tool manager server script has now printed out monster. And that's exactly what we wanted. And that actually means that our client has communicated with the server, and the server is now actually printing this out for us, which is exactly what we wanted. Perfect. Now, first, let's actually fix this because I didn't actually spell activated right. Activated. Okay, there we go. And then we also want to rename that in all of the files which we have used it on. So inside of click as well. There we go. So now let me actually explain why we put things where we put things. Now, that might be a little confusing. What I mean by that is, why are we putting remotes inside of replicated storage? You might be wondering this. And why are we putting certain things inside of server script storage? Let's actually start our game because I think it'll make it a little bit easier to understand. So when we start the game, we are actually getting a perspective from the client side. We're not getting a perspective from the server. So if we look on the Explorer right here, what we're seeing is only anything that our client is seeing and our client can touch or interact with. So if we go to replicated storage, we expand this, we can actually see two different folders. This is a folder which is generated by Roblox by default, but then we also see our remotes folder, and then we see our tool activated remote. Now, if we look at server script service, we see we can't access anything inside of here because we are the client. Additionally, we can check out, say, the starter GUI, and we can see the starter GUI that we have here. Now, we could also take a look from the server view view, if we actually go to home and where it says current and client, we could actually swap over to the server. Now we can see our player right here, and we're actually seeing the point of view from the server. So now if we look inside of server script servers, we can see all the scripts which are inside of here. So we can see the tool manager, the player data, and everything else like that. But if we're a player and like, let's say we're an exploiter, we're not able to see anything that's inside of server script service. But since we are a player, we're using the replicated storage and we're putting remotes inside there because both the player and the server needs to be able to access the remotes. That's how they can communicate back and forth with each other because they're both able to view every single thing that's inside of the remotes. Hopefully that was pretty informal for you guys to sort of help understand why exactly we're putting things where we're putting things. Anyway, with that being said, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the French fry, we're going to put it back in a workspace, and let's actually make this work with multiple tools. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this. Let's rename this to French fry 2, and then we will copy and paste that one more time, and we will make French fry 3. So let's move that over a little bit. Let's just go ahead and go inside of the holder, and we'll recolor this one to blue, and then we will go inside of 2 and recolor this one to green, and then there we go. So we've got a red, green, and blue one, so we can easily differentiate between all of those. Now what we're going to do is we are actually going to throw all of these inside of the server storage. Now, another thing that we want to do is if we look inside of all these tools, we have this script. Now, imagine if we wanted to change something in the script. In order to do that, we would have to go through every single one of these click scripts, and we would have to change it in every single script. So like, let's just say, for instance, we wanted to put a print statement right here because it was really important to us. So if we then needed to do that in every single script, we would literally have to open up every single script and put that into every single one, which could take a lot of extra time that we really don't even need to waste. Rather than doing this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to delete this. We're going to delete this, and we're actually just going to keep one of the scripts. Then let's drag one of those scripts into server storage. Let's close all of these off, and let's go ahead and make a folder. We'll go ahead and rename that to tools, and then we will go ahead and throw all of those into there. Now let's also make another folder, and we will just call this scripts. And then basically what we're going to be using the server storage for is literal storage. So we're going to be storing our tools in here. We'll be storing whatever else that's kind of extra inside of here as well. Okay, so let's go back to the tool manager script. Then what we're going to do is we are going to make a variable for server storage. So local server storage equals game get service server storage. Perfect. Let's go ahead and grab the tools folder. So we're going to say local tools equals server storage, find first child tools. And then we will also do the exact same thing, but for scripts this time. So we're going to say local scripts equals server storage, find first child scripts. All right, perfect. So now what we want to do is when the server actually starts up, we want to copy this script into all the tools that we have. And then we actually want to give the tool to the player. So what we're going to do is we are going to say local script equals, and then we're going to look inside of the scripts folder, and then we are going to find our click script. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to clone it, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a for loop, and we're going to loop through all of the tools inside of the tools folder. So we're going to say local underscore comma tool in I pairs, and we're going to say tools get children do. Okay, that might be a little bit much, so let's go ahead and look at this again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to scripts. And oh yeah, we have to make sure that this is scripts. So we're creating a variable called script. And where we're getting this from is we're going into the scripts, which is the folder named scripts inside of server storage. So this folder right here, we're getting this local script right here. Then what we're doing is we are cloning it. What cloning is it's basically copying. We're basically getting a copy of this script. And then what we're going to do is we're looping through all of the tools inside of this tools folder right here. Then we're going to say script.parent equals tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the script, then we're going to go through every single tool, and we're going to put the script inside of that tool. Now, I think I should actually put this inside of here, but we can try it without that. So let's go ahead and actually start the game. And then we're actually going to have to look from the server view since they're held in the server storage. And then let's go ahead and look in tools. And if we open the tools, yes, we can see that it's only stored within 3. So yes, what we actually have to do is we can just go ahead and throw this inside of here. And then let's go ahead and start it once again. And then if we go ahead and look from the server point of view, server storage, tools, we can open up all of our tools and we can see the click script has now been put into every single one of those tools. And we can also look inside of scripts and we can see the click script is still inside of here as well, which is perfect. And that's exactly what we wanted. Now, if you're wondering why we have to put the variable within the for loop rather than above it, it's actually because basically when we do this, we're just getting one clone of it. Once we copy it one time and then paste it, we're sort of just losing it. So we need to basically copy it every single time or 3 different times for every single tool. So that's why we're putting it within inside of the for loop. So remember, what this is doing doing is it's going through all the tools, it's copying the script, and it's pasting it inside of all the tools, which is exactly what we want. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the player data script, which is inside of our server script service. Then let's go ahead and create a variable for the server storage. So server storage equals game get service server storage. Perfect. Then what we're going to do is at the bottom of the setup player data function, right before the give player currency, what we're going to do is actually we could create a whole nother function for this just because it might be a little bit more organized. We're going to say give tool. And then we're going to say player because we want to get the player. So we're going to say player. And then we will also say tool as a string. Okay, so now what we're going to do, local tool clone equals server storage, find first child, tools. So we're going to look inside the tools folder and we are going to look for the tool which we passed through here. And then what we want to do is we want to clone it. Now you never want to give the player the actual instance of the tool or anything like that. And the reason for that is because when we use clone, we're just copying and pasting it. So we'll always be able to copy and paste it to every single player. If you were to just give them the tool directly without cloning it, then you're literally going to give them the only tool which exists inside of server storage, and you're not going to be able to give it to any other player when they join the game, which is obviously what we do not want to do. So let's make sure that we're cloning this, and then what we want to do is we actually want to parent it to the player's backpack. So we're going to say toolClone.parent, and then we're going to say player, find first child, and we are going to look for the backpack. So boom, there we go. Now, of course, we have to call this function. So once again, we're going to go like right down here, and we are going to call the function, and we're going to pass through the player, and then we are actually going to get the name of the tool. So let's say, for instance, we want to use the French fries. So let's go ahead and pass that through there. Now let's save that, start up the game, and this should work. It did not work. Unfortunate. I had to do a little bit of debugging. What we're going to do is we need to do inside of give tool, we are going to say repeat task.wait until player.character. Now this might be a little bit confusing, but basically what it's going to do is it will wait until the player's character has been loaded. And it's a little bit weird because I don't exactly think you should need to do this, but it's a little bit odd, and I'll show you what I mean. So tool.clone.parent.name, what this is going to print out is the parent of the tool.clone. And also what we're going to do is we are cloning it to the player's backpack. So we're going to say toolclone.parent equals player.backpack. And what this should do is it will put the tool inside of the player's backpack. But if we start the game, we can see that backpack has been printed out, but we don't actually have it. And it's a little bit odd because it's not like the backpack isn't loaded, but it seems like the safest way to make sure that this works is just by actually waiting until the player's character is in the game. By waiting until the player's character has actually loaded. So let's go ahead and do that and start it up, and we can see that we now have the French fry inside of our inventory, and that's perfect. And now when we click it, we can see that these things all pop up, which is also perfect as well. So let's go ahead and stop the game. Now, just to recap on this, repeat is a loop. So this is actually normally how the repeat loop actually looks like when it's split up. So basically we repeat whatever's inside of here, and we could put like more stuff in here like test print or whatever, but there's no really point in doing that. So what we're doing is we're just constantly waiting until the player's character has actually been loaded, and then we're going to go ahead and clone the tool. Then we'll parent it to the player's backpack, and we'll then put the tool inside of the player's backpack, and then we're going to print this out, but we're just going to go ahead and delete that. And then also let's go ahead and throw that on one line because it looks nicer that way. Okay, so that's perfect, and that's exactly what we wanted. Now that we're giving the player the tool, let's actually just sort of comment it out right there because we don't want to really use that anymore. Then let's go back to the tool manager server script service, and now inside of here, we want to do something different when the tool is activated. We actually want to give the player some currency. So we're going to go back to the replicated storage. We're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this config. Inside of here, we're actually going to insert a module script, and let's go ahead and rename this to tool config. Now, inside of here, we're going to have a module, and it really doesn't matter what you rename this to. Eventually, like by the end of the series, we're going to have like 100 module files. Not actually, we'll probably have like 10 or 15. And we could name this to like tool and then also return tool, but it really doesn't matter. You're just going to be copy and pasting this a lot as we go down the series. So the name of this specifically does not matter at all. Okay, so inside of this table, we are going to get the name of the tool. So we're going to list off every single one of our tools, and then we're going to make a table with information about that specific tool. So for instance, we are going to say French fry. We could also go down here, click rename, and then say that to make sure the spelling's right. We're going to say equals, and then we're going to create a brand new table. If you guys have watched watch other simulator tutorials, a lot of other people do it very similarly, or sort of what we're doing, but in my opinion, in a worse way. And that's with no offense to them. What people usually do is they will create actually an int value inside of the tool. Actually, I'll show you. So I'll continue real quick before I show you the example. So we're going to say name equals, and then we'll sort of give it a nicer looking name. So we're going to say French fry. We'll say food, and this will be referring to the food stat. We'll say 1, and then we will say price equals 0. Now you might be thinking, why are we giving it a price? A lot of this is actually going to be for the shop GUI, which we'll be creating in a couple of episodes. So this config file will be used everywhere. Now imagine, right? What this is basically going to do is we are going to create this, and now when we actually use this tool, we're going to be getting 1 food every single time we use the French fry tool. Now let's go ahead and throw a comma at the end of this and actually just copy and paste this 2 more times. Then we can do it for French fry 2 and French fry 3, which is our other tools. And then we'll just throw that there and 3 right there. And then we can adjust the food properly, like let's say 3. And then we'll also say the price for right now is 10 and 25. So now imagine if we were going to put the values inside of the individual tools themselves. Normally what people would do is we're going to say food, and usually people would say like food stat, and then you actually set the value inside of here. So 1, and then we would do the same thing. And this time we would say price, and then we would set the value to 0, and then you would create a string value for the name. Now the thing is remember, doing this is so much less efficient than doing what we're doing right now with this config file, in my opinion. It's basically doing the exact same thing, but I feel like having it all in one file and not having to go through every single tool manually, you're centralizing where the data is that you're working on, and it's not like you'll ever have to look inside of the tool again. We're pretty much done with these tools. We will literally never have to touch these tools again, besides maybe modifying how they look and stuff like that, but the rest of the stuff will be handled through scripts for the most part. Let me further demonstrate how we're actually going to use this. So let's go back to the tool manager. We already have the replicated storage initialized right there. So let's now get the tool config file. So we're going to say local tool config equals, and then we're going to require, because it's a module script, you actually have to use the require and wrap that around whatever module script that you're actually getting. So then we're going to say replicated storage, find first child, config, we're going to get the config folder, and then we're going to say, once again, find first child, and we're going to get the tool config. Remember, make sure that you wrap module files in require, because if you don't do require and you just call it like a normal file, it is not going to work. And then we're going to use that for when the tool's activated. But now we need to do another thing. We actually want to go back to data manager. We actually want to get the tool config again. So let's go ahead and put this inside of player data. So we'll throw it right there. We also need to get the replicated storage. So local replicated storage, I don't even think I spelled that right, equals game, get service, replicated storage. Did I spell that right? Yeah, I guess I did spell it right. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we want to make a brand new data set for all the tools that we can possibly have, that we could possibly own, and the ones that we're possibly using. So what I'm going to do is we are going to create a brand new folder. We're going to say local inventory equals instance.new folder, and we're going to parent that to the player because we want the folder inside of the player. And then we're going to name the folder .name equals inventory. Also make sure that you are persistent with your capitalization. Since we lowercase the folder of leader stats, we're going to also lowercase the inventory as well because I want to stay consistent. And then we're going to say, we're going to create another folder and we're going to call this tools folder. I'm actually going to say inventory folder to make it as specific as possible. And then what we're going to do with the tools folder is we're actually going to put it inside of the inventory folder, and then we're going to set the tools folder name to tools. You might be thinking, why is this capitalized, but this isn't. Basically, the first folder, I always make it non-capitalized, and then everything after that, I do capitalize. It might be slightly confusing. I do it because leader stats needs to be lowercase. If I could capitalize the first letter of all the folders, I definitely would, but I like to keep it consistent with how the leader stats is, which does definitely annoy me. We're going to call the tools folder tools, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say for underscore, because we're not using the index, we're going to say tool in I pairs, and we're going to get tool config, and we're going to do. Actually, I think we will use this because that would be tool and this would be table. Change that up slightly. This is actually tool and this will be table. Let me change this to tool table so it's a little bit less confusing. Okay, so if we go back to the tool config, this is the key right here and this is the value. So this is the tool and this is the tool table. Pretty simple. So now what we're going to do, we're going to be creating Boolean values. So we're going to say local tool Boolean, I guess, equals instance.new bool value, and we're going to parent that to tools folder, and then we're going to set the name of the Boolean to the tool name. And then for now, we are going to set the value to false by default. So what we're doing right here is we are creating an inventory, and then we're creating a tools folder inside of the inventory. And what this means, we could rename this to own tools to make it a little bit less confusing. So imagine this. Inside of the inventory, we're going to have a folder named own tools. And then inside of there, we're going to have every single tool that we have in our game. And we're going to set that to either true or false if the player owns that specific tool. So let's actually make an if statement. So if tool equals, then think about whatever our first tool is going to be. So if we're going to say French fry, if tool equals French fry, then we'll actually set the value to true. Otherwise, we'll just actually set it to false. So if it is the first tool, then we will set it to true. Otherwise, we're going to set it to false. And there we go. That is pretty much good to go, I believe. Now, once again, inside of the inventory folder, we're actually going to be creating a string value this time. And we're going to name that equipped tool equals instance.new string value, and we're going to parent that to the inventory folder. We're going to say equipped tool.name equals equipped tool. Let's go ahead and capitalize that. And then for now, the default value should always be your first tool, and the default tool is going to be French fry for right now. So let's just set it to that, and that's exactly what we want. So now, just so I can show you what we're doing, let's actually go ahead and start the game. Then we can go into players, look at our player, and we can see exactly what we're doing. So we now have an inventory folder inside of our player, and we now have own tools and equip tool. And now equip tool is set to the value of French fry, which is exactly what we want. Now, something is wrong with our own tools because all the tools should be inside of there, but they're not. So let's go ahead and investigate that. So what I'm going to do to understand what is going on is I'm going to say print tool and print tool table. And if those print, then that means that something is up. But if those don't print, then I believe that is because we are using I pairs rather than normal pairs. So let's go ahead and try that out. Okay. Well, that means that the loop is running. We just got an actual error at 66, and 66 is right here. So attempt to index string with value. Okay. I see exactly what we did here. Okay. So let's go ahead and stop our game. So what we need to do is, the way to fix this is instead of I pairs, we're using normal pairs. And then we could also see what was printed out here. So on 59, the tool was printed out, and that was the actual tool. It was French fry. And then we can also see the table which was printed out. So the food, the name, and the price. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So we can delete those print statements, and then we need to do tool boolean, and there we go. So now when we start it up, we can look inside of the players, go into monster, go into your inventory, and look inside of own tools, and we can see all of the stuff right here. So we can see that by default, we already own the French fry, but French fry 2 and 3, we do not own. And what tool do we have equipped? We have the French fry equipped. Perfect. So then what we want to do is we want to actually, of course, get the saved data, which we want to do down here. So what we're going to say is player.inventory. And we could also just copy and paste this to make sure that we're not spelling anything wrong. So player.inventory.equipped.tool.value equals if return value.equipped.tool does not equal nil, return value.inventory.equipped.tool. So let's do that. And I also always capitalize those as well. So does not equal nil, then, and it's going to be this. Now this will be nil because we actually haven't saved the data yet. Then we'll do that. Otherwise, we will just do French fry because that's the default one. And then also we are going to kind of do the exact same thing. So we're going to say for underscore tool in I pairs, we're going to get the player.inventory. And then this time we actually want to get the own tools folder. Then we are going to get children. So basically, up here, we're actually generating all this information and we're putting it into the player. And then down here, we're going to go through all that information, all those tools that we just put into the own tools folder. And then let's go ahead and do something. Now what we're going to do is we are going to say tool.value equals, and we are going to set the value to basically what we're doing right here. We can copy and paste this, and then we just got to change it up a little bit. So we got to say .inventory.own tools, and then we want to surround them in these brackets right here. And then we want to say tool.name. And then we're going to copy and paste that right over to here. And then we'll say else false because that would be by default. We could also print out tool.name so it makes it a little bit more sense. So what we're doing is we're going through all of the own tools that we already just added to the player's inventory up here. So French fry 2, and French fry 3. So then what we're going to do is we're going to set the value of those when we pull the save data, which is the return value .inventory.own tools. We're going to then look for the tool name. So this would actually be basically the exact same thing as writing .tool name, but the thing is that actually wouldn't work. So that's why we actually have to surround it in brackets. Another way of writing this would actually be find first child, and then that should actually do the same thing, but as you can see, it's a lot simpler and a lot quicker just to surround it in brackets, and there we go. So then we're going to set it to the value of whatever the data is that we stored. Otherwise, we'll just set it to false like it should be. Okay, so we've got that. Now we have to do the save data. So we've got to come down to the save data. This time, we're basically going to do the same thing, but almost backwards in a way. So we're going to say local equipped tool equals, I don't know if I spelled that right or not. We're going to say, let me make sure that that's spelled right. Okay, so then we're going to say local boom, player.inventory.equip.tool.value, just like how we do up here. So we are done with this line. And then we need to actually get all of the own tools. So we're actually going to create a blank table. We're going to say blank owned tool table equals, and then a blank table. And then what we're going to do, we're going to loop through every single tool that the player owns, and we're going to say own tool table. We're going to add to the table every single tool. So tool.name. So this is going to be our key, and then the value of that key is going to be tool value, and we're going to add every single one of those to the list. And then finally, to finish this off, we're going to say inventory equals, and then a table, and then inside of the table we are going to say equip tool equals equipped tool, and then comma, and we're going to say owned tools equals own tool table. We could make this plural because it would make more sense. All right, there we go. Okay, so we should be able to start this up and it should work, and I will further explain it once again once we end the game. Now, the first time you start this up, you might get an error. Don't worry about that. That's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and stop the game and then start again. The reason that you get that error is because the folder that we actually created doesn't exist yet because we haven't saved it yet, but now it will, so we're perfectly fine. So now, if we go into players, we go into inventory, we go into own tools, we can see French fry 2, French fry 3, and equip tool. And we can also see the player data table right here. So we can go into inventory, and then inside of inventory, we can see the equip tool, and then inside of own tools, we can see all the specific tools. Now let's close the game, and then we can also see the save data table as well. Upon saving, we can go ahead and explore this. We can see coins and food both equal 0. Then go inside the inventory. This time we can see it's capitalized, and we can see equip tool equals French fry and all the tools that we own. So that's perfect, and that works exactly how we wanted. Basically, to save the data, you just do it backwards almost, what we did up here. It's really simple once you get the hang of it and you sort of kind of get the pattern down, because it's always the same thing for the same exact way that you do all of it. Okay, I know that was a lot. Now what we need to do is we want to go back up to give tool. This time what we can do is when we actually call give tool, what we want to do is we want to give the tool that the player has equipped. So this time we're going to say give the tool, and it's going to be whatever is set to equip tool.value. So now when we start it up, we can now see that we are given French fry. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So now the player will be given the correct tool. And of course, this will change when we add in like a shop or anything. Now we could actually change this up. We could say give tool, and let's just remove the argument from here because we really don't need it. We're going to be getting the same tool every single time. Let's just actually set the variable inside of here. Let's say local tool equals that. Okay, there we go. So now we'll see what tool they should be given every single time they join the game. All right, so now go back inside of tool manager, and this time what we're going to say is upon the tool being activated, we're going to loop through all the tools, and we will get the tool table in pairs of the tool config. So what we did back in the player data. And this time, what we're going to say is if tool equals, and then we're also going to check the tool that the player is currently using. So we're going to say local player tool equals player.inventory. We could just go back over to player data real fast, and we're going to say player.inventory.equipped. This is what we're going to copy, and we are going to paste it. We're going to paste it directly into here. So now we're going to get what the tool the player currently has equipped. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to say if the tool, which is going to be the name of the tool, we're going to say if that equals the current tool that the player has equipped, then do something. And what we're going to do is we are going to say player.leader stats.food plus equals tool table dot food. So let's go ahead and start this and see if this works properly. Let's go ahead and equip the tool, click, and okay. on instance and number. Okay, I know what I did. This is really simple. So we actually just need to say dot value, and then there we go. All right, so whip out those fries, click, and as we can see, we are getting coins every single time we click. That's exactly what we wanted. So as we can see, when we click, we get 1 coin. Let's actually get 2 coins now. So sort of the easiest way to do this would be kind of by doing this equals French fry 2, because that's one of the other tools that we have. So we're just setting the value here. This isn't how you would normally do it, but imagine if a player actually bought a tool and equipped it. So this is something that we would sort of use if a player bought a tool and then equipped it. So we're equipping the French fry 2 this time, then we'll start the game, and then we now have the French fry 2. So let's go ahead and click, and as we can see, we're getting 2 food every single time we click this. Perfect. Let's go ahead and remove this because we don't want that there anymore. And let me go ahead and start up the game, and we'll talk a little bit about this. So you might be thinking, why are you doing it the way that you're doing? Why are you using the equipped tool? What I've seen a lot of people do is they actually base the amount of money or currency the player gets by whatever the tool they're actually holding. In my opinion, checking whatever tool the player is holding is not a good way to do it, because that can be manipulated in multiple ways, especially if you don't set your game up the right way. When we use this string value right here, that prevents the player from possibly exploiting whatever system that you have. When using the equipped tool, the only time that this value should change is whenever a player specifically equips a tool and press the equip button. When we actually change this value, this would commonly be changed from using an inventory or from using a shop when a player purchases a tool. Upon a player purchasing a tool, we will set the value specifically to whatever tool the player has purchased, and we can do that all on the server side and verify if they should be able to have that tool and if they should have that tool equipped. So it gives us so much more control over it rather than being confused. Additionally, this allows us to easily save what player the tool had when they left the game, and then also give them the same tool when they rejoin the game. Okay, so that's enough of that. We've pretty much done every single thing that I've wanted to do for this video for right now. Anyways, if this video did help you guys out, make sure you smash the like button. If you guys are new around here and you guys want to see some more Roblox development videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn those post notifications on. Additionally, if you guys would like to support me, and please do, because this video is so long and it's going to take me so long to edit. Of course, you don't have to. I'm slightly kidding. But if you guys do want to support me and gain access to all the scripts and the actual game file that I made during this video, there's a link down below in the description to my Patreon. Go check it out and maybe even subscribe if you're feeling generous enough. Anyway, with that being said, I hope that you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.